He smiled like he had something to hide. The first time I met Daniel Carrick, he didn't shake my hand. He scanned my face, nodded like he already knew me, and turned back to the boardroom without saying a word. A lot of people said he was brilliant, magnetic, visionary. But I didn't see that. I saw something else, something I couldn't name at the time. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't coldness. It was calculation. I've always been good at reading people. It's how I stayed alive in the PR trenches for 6 years. And this man, the one who replaced our founder after his sudden retirement, he didn't talk like a man who'd built anything. He talked like someone who'd memorized the notes, and the thing about people who memorize is they always get something wrong. At first, it was small. He called our longest-standing client Ron. His name was Rob. He referred to the new Haven medical pitch as happening in April, when it had actually been in May. During a team meeting, he praised someone for leading a project they hadn't even touched. People thought it was just onboarding stress. But it kept happening, and then he started avoiding questions altogether. I was assigned as his executive assistant 3 weeks after his appointment. My job was to manage his calendar, brief him before meetings, organize files, and, as he put it, keep distractions away from his door. What he meant, I'd learn later, was keep people from seeing what I don't understand. The first red flag came on a Monday. He called me into his office and asked for a breakdown of our latest clinical development cycle. I handed him the file. He stared at it for a full minute before asking, "Which of these stages is usually the most expensive?" That might sound like a normal question, except he was the CEO of a biotech firm. Any C-level exec in this field knows the answer without blinking. I gave a polite reply. But I remember walking out of that office feeling like I'd just shown a car salesman how to open the hood. The second flag came 2 days later. He mispronounced the name of the company's founder, Dr. Amy Kohler, called her Amy Collar, in front of the board. That wasn't onboarding stress. That was someone who had never heard her name spoken aloud by someone who knew her. Still, I said nothing. I was new. The company was still reeling from the transition. And Daniel was the golden boy, Stanford-educated, media-ready, and handpicked by the board. But things kept piling up. His resume said he'd done his residency at UC Irvine. But during a dinner, with a medtech client, he claimed he'd been in Boston during the SARS outbreak. When I asked casually afterward if he'd meant he did a rotation in Massachusetts, he blinked like I'd cornered him, then smiled, and changed the subject. That night I checked. UC Irvine had no record of him ever being in their program. That's when I started keeping notes. Not gossip, not speculation, just patterns. Names he got wrong, projects he confused, biographical details that shifted depending on who he was talking to. I thought maybe he was hiding a shady past. I didn't realize yet. He wasn't Daniel Carrick at all. But before I could say anything, before I could ask more, before I could even finish my quiet little spreadsheet, he fired me. Said, I was too curious, said I lacked discretion, said I was making people uncomfortable, but what he didn't know? I already had a copy of his onboarding file, and the last page had a forged university credential, one that didn't match public records or student registries or anything remotely legitimate. He fired me on a Friday. By Sunday night, I was sitting across from a man who used to profile identity thieves for the FBI, and by Monday morning, we knew Daniel Carrick had died 10 years ago, and whoever took his place was about to learn what too curious really looked like. He fired me on a Friday. Soy was quiet, clinical, like removing a splinter. We're restructuring the front office, he'd said. It's nothing personal, Jenna. We just need tighter discretion going forward. Discretion, that was his favorite word. He wielded it like a scalpel, clean and bloodless. The HR rep was already in the room when I walked in. Clipboard, awkward. Smile? Sealed envelope? My system access had been shut off 30 minutes before I arrived. They didn't even give me time to pack my desk. Just a box and a security escort. But what Daniel didn't know, what made him reckless, was that I'd already taken what mattered. The week before, I'd copied his onboarding folder onto a personal flash drive. Something had felt wrong, and I trusted my gut. That folder contained his resume, scanned transcripts, 3 reference letters, and 1 out-of-place PDF. A degree verification from Stanford. It looked polished at first. Same fonts, correct seal, believable watermark. But the signature? It belonged to a registrar who retired in 2009. The file was dated 2015. It was a forgery. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at that signature. My laptop lit the room like a spotlight, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel crazy. I felt right. So I did what any woman does when she's been erased and told she's imagining things. Called someone who's made a career out of finding people who pretend to be someone else. His name was Sam Keller, retired FBI, former identity fraud and behavioral counterintelligence. Also, my former mentor during a criminology fellowship I'd completed after college. Before detouring into corporate life, he answered on the second ring. Jenna, how long since you caught someone lying in real time? 3 weeks, I said. But this one's big. Bigger than resume padding or HR-level fraud. I explained the inconsistencies, the red flags, the forged Stanford doc. He was quiet for a moment. Then, come to my house. Bring what you have. Sam's home was an hour north, tucked into the hills above Escondido. A cabin disguised as a retiree's dream but wired tighter than a secure lab. Motion sensors, analog locks. No smart devices. I walked in with a folder, 2 flash drives, and a list of everything I'd noticed. Sam poured coffee and said nothing as I laid it all out. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. You ever heard of Bryce Naylor? No. You're about to. He opened an encrypted drive and pulled up a file marked Bio M6 Shadow. Inside, a photo that made my blood freeze. Same man, same face, same haircut. But the name below it was Naylor Bryce Allen. And the file? Marked High Threat, Persistent Deceptor. Class for Bryce Naylor was a corporate shapeshifter. Over a decade, he had assumed at least 4 identities, each tied to tech or biotech firms. Always joining during transitions, always vanishing after. A crisis. In 2 cases, he was listed as a missing witness in investigations involving corporate theft, whistleblower silencing, and in 1 case, a suspicious death. Each time he reappeared somewhere new, with new credentials. He uses dormant identities, Sam explained. People who died in obscure circumstances, whose names don't raise red flags on shallow checks. It's surgical. And Daniel Carrick was one of those names. Sam nodded. He died on a corporate retreat 10 years ago, listed as a hiking accident. The body was cremated immediately. Family barely spoke out. The company settled a wrongful death quietly. Bryce had stepped into the ashes, and now he was sitting at the top of my company. Leaned forward. What does he want with us? Depends, Sam said. What's your company guarding? Patents, clinical data, early-stage therapy trials. Sam grunted. He's harvesting. He sells proprietary data to offshore labs, unregulated, pharma, then tanks the company from the inside before anyone catches on. So, why fire me? Because you're the only one who sees through the illusion. People like Bryce survive on blind trust. I stood up. We have to expose him. Sam didn't smile. Good, because if you don't, you're going to be his next unsolved case. Finding the real Daniel Carrick was harder than it should have been, because Daniel Carrick was dead, and no one wanted to talk about it. Sam and I started With the official obituary, Daniel R. Carrick, age 29, died in 2013 during a corporate retreat in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Cause of death: accidental fall. No autopsy. Body cremated within 48 hours. The company he worked for, Neurogene X Labs, had quietly dissolved a year later after a patent lawsuit and investor scandal. No remaining executives. Website wiped. Records archived behind private legal walls. The only surviving relative we could confirm was a sister, Claire Carrick Denton. Former nurse, now living in Tempe, Arizona. I didn't call her. I drove there. Claire was hesitant at first, wary, but when I showed her a picture of Daniel Carrick, the man currently running my former company, her expression cracked. "That's not my brother," she said softly. "That's the man who showed up at his funeral." I froze. "You saw him?" She nodded. He introduced himself as Daniel's friend from Stanford. Said he was devastated. Said he'd handle some of the final affairs so I didn't have to. But there was something wrong about him. Something cold. I never forgot his eyes. She handed me an old box. Inside, Daniel's real degree, family photos, his old ID. The differences were subtle, but undeniable. "This man," I said, pointing to the photo of her brother, "was smart? Smart, but shy. Couldn't lie if his life depended on it. Did he ever mention Neurogene X being dangerous?" She hesitated. "He did say something once, right before the retreat. He told me, if anything happens, don't trust anyone from the company, not even the ones with perfect resumes." Back in the car, I called Sam. "He's been doing this for at least 10 years, I said. Claire saw him. At the funeral. He inserted himself into Daniel's life the moment it ended. Sam's voice crackled over the line. "And he's already moving again." Bryce had submitted an exit contingency plan to the board under the alias Carrick. Sam's intel contacts confirmed he was preparing to sell part of the company's pending intellectual property, an early-stage Alzheimer's therapy, to a shell corporation based in Singapore. Same pattern as before. Steal, vanish, destroy the trail. Except now, he was being watched. We needed evidence. Real, undeniable, irrefutable. We started combing through the forged credential. Sam cross-referenced the registrar's digital signature with other fakes from Bryce's past aliases. The patterns matched. Metadata matched. Even the compression artifacts in the PDFs matched prior forgeries. We just needed a way to connect Bryce to all of them under one name. Maya, the digital forensics specialist Sam once mentored, joined the team. She found it. And the encryption fingerprint buried in a fake company letterhead Bryce had used under a different identity years ago. The same encryption key appeared on his Daniel Carrick onboarding files. That was it. The missing link. Now we just needed one more. Peace day. Confession. So I called the one person who could still lure him into letting his guard down, his assistant, Marin Lowe. She'd replaced me after I was fired. She was sharp, quiet, the kind of person Bryce thought he could control. I asked her for coffee. Just 15 minutes. I told her I missed the job, missed the work, missed her. She said yes. We met at a diner near the office. She looked tired, worn, and scared. I didn't waste time. "I know who he is," I said. "And I know what he did to Daniel." She didn't flinch. Instead, she whispered, "I didn't want to believe it, but there's a locked folder on his personal server. I've seen him access it late at night." I slid a flash drive across the table. "Get me a copy, then walk away." She hesitated, then took the drive. 3 days later, she called. "I got it, but you need to see it in person." The drive contained a video file, unedited, unnamed. We opened it in Sam's cabin. There he was, Bryce Naylor, not in a suit, not on stage, just him. Alone in a hotel room. Speaking to camera. Identity is a soft currency, he said. People don't look at credentials. They look at charisma. They look at posture. They trust confidence more than facts. He went on for 27 minutes, detailing how he picked his targets, how he studied company cultures like wildlife habitats, how he harvested loyalty before replacing leadership. By the end of the video, my hands were shaking. Sam's voice was steel. This is enough to destroy him. When you expose a man like Bryce Naylor, you don't just shine a light. You trigger a trap. The video confession should have been the kill shot. Sam and I had everything lined up. The forged documents, the encrypted metadata, the voice match, the cross-linked aliases. We were days away from submitting it to a journalist with deep ties to a federal task force focused on corporate espionage. Then it started. It began with a call from my bank. Unusual activity on your checking account. Then my health insurance. Portal locked me out. Then the burner email I'd been using for research got flagged for suspicious sending patterns. And then someone uploaded a falsified complaint under my name to a harassment database used by recruiters. The title? Unstable former employee with obsessive tendencies. Within 48 hours, my digital footprint was compromised. LinkedIn, flagged. Background check, tagged with a pending ethics inquiry. My rental application was suddenly denied for data inconsistencies. Sam and Maya both confirmed the same thing. Bryce is trying to erase you, Maya said. Digitally. It's his second favorite strategy after identity theft. Reverse assassination. If he can't kill your name, he'll kill your credibility. I had one advantage. I was still invisible to the public. No blog, no media presence, no followers. So we used that. Marin texted me just before midnight. He's leaving. Flight booked. Singapore. Friday. Attached was a screenshot from his company profile, flagged as travel authorization to finalize a private licensing deal with a third-party biotech firm. We knew what that meant. He was about to offload proprietary research to an international shell company and vanish again. Same blueprint as before. But this time, we were ahead of him. We contacted Zara Moreno, an investigative journalist who specialized in Black Ops corporate deals. Sam had worked with her before. She was sharp, ruthless, and trusted no one. We showed her the full file dump, on one condition: wait 72 hours. Let us finish it our way, then publish it everywhere. That's when Bryce made a mistake. He called me, my old number. Blocked, but traceable. I answered on speaker with Sam recording in the background. Hello? His voice was ice. You should have stopped. I didn't say a word. You don't know what you're doing. I stayed silent. You think a few old files will bury me? I wrote those. You think I care if people know who I am? You should worry about who they are. Then a click, and silence. Sam looked at me. He's scared. Arrogant men only call when they think they're losing. Maya already had the trace mapped. The call came from an encrypted number rerouted through a private executive suite. 3 floors above his office. That's where we needed to go next. The next day, I went in, posing as a new hire for an unrelated department, with a forged entry badge Maya cloned using Marin's old access credentials. I wore a wig, a blazer I'd never worn to the office before, and glasses that shielded most of my face. The elevator let me off on the top floor. The door to the executive suite was slightly ajar. Inside, minimal furniture, 2 screens, and a briefcase, unlocked. Inside the briefcase, hard drives, a burner phone, cash, and a folded paper itinerary. Singapore. Friday, 8:05 p.m., and a thumb drive labeled failsafe. I pocketed it. I was out of the building in under 6 minutes. The drive was encrypted, level 4 AES grade security. Maya spent 6 hours cracking it, and when it opened, we found it. Contracts wire instructions voice files, loyalty logs. That last one was the most disturbing. He'd ranked employees by how easily they could be manipulated. Each person had a score. Color-coded. Green meant compliant. Yellow meant neutral. Red meant disposable. My name? Double red. With a note. If she pushes past phase 2, destroy her credibility immediately. Consider legal pressure or psychological displacement. He had built a system, a methodology, an entire psychological warfare engine inside the company, and now we had the blueprint. We prepared for the summit. Bryce's last public appearance as Daniel Carrick would be the company's investor meeting at the Zenith Hotel ballroom. Black tie, media, stakeholders, live broadcast. It would also be his undoing. Zara was on standby to go live the moment we confirmed he stepped on stage. Maya built a mirrored stream that could override the ballroom projection system. And I had the flash drive, the video, the documents, and the real Daniel Carrick's photo. I walked into the Zenith Hotel ballroom at 6:47 p.m. My badge read, Vendor Stage Tech. Maya had designed it down to the barcode. The same company Bryce's event planner hired. They scanned it, waved me through. The ballroom buzzed with energy. Champagne flutes clinking, investors mingling, journalists prepping their gear. A massive screen displayed the company logo on a loop, set against ambient music that made it all feel like an expensive lie. In 20 minutes, Bryce would take the stage as Daniel Carrick, and in 21, I would end him. Backstage, Maya was already in position, posing as the AV tech managing the Q feed. She wore an earpiece connected to me, Sam, and Zara Moreno, the journalist waiting outside in a black SUV with a Wi-Fi uplink, and the final report ready to drop the second we went live. The thumb drive in my pocket held everything. The forged credentials, the contracts, the voice confession, employee manipulation logs, a clip of Claire Carrick, the real Daniel's sister, confirming Bryce was not her brother. It would be projected behind him, timed to perfection. PM. Bryce walked into the spotlight, tailored navy suit, polished shoes, smug posture. He waved at the crowd like a politician who thought he'd already won. I stood behind the curtain. Every part of me was screaming. This was it. I'd watched this man erase careers, rewrite lives, and stand on a stolen identity like it was a podium. Not tonight. Good evening, he began. We're honored to have you here as we begin our most ambitious chapter yet. I gave Maya the nod. She pressed one key. The company logo on the screen behind Bryce glitched, then blinked, then disappeared, replaced by a still image, the real Daniel Carrick, Stanford grad photo. Brown hair, green eyes, a quiet, almost gentle smile. The crowd shifted. Bryce froze. Then came the audio, his voice, from the video. Identity is a soft currency. People trust posture over facts. You give them a suit, a title, and they'll follow you into the fire. Gasps spread through the room. He turned, saw the image, saw the text now filling the screen. Daniel Carrick, died 2013, Sierra Nevada retreat. Current CEO, Bryce Naylor. Identity fraud, IP theft, corporate espionage. He grabbed the mic. This is fake. Shut it down. But Maya had locked the system. Then came the footage of Claire. Then the documents. Then the confession. The ballroom was dead silent. Then cell phones lit up. Text messages, emails, live tweets. Zara's article had gone live mid-speech. Carrick Khan, corporate imposter. Halstead fraud. A woman from the front row stood. Who are you? Security stepped forward. Bryce dropped the mic and ran. But he didn't get far. Sam had already tipped off federal agents. 2 men in black intercepted him outside the loading dock. Calm, quick. He didn't resist, because he knew it was over. I didn't. Stay to watch them take him away. I walked to the curb, past cameras, through whispers. Zara opened the SUV door. You did it. No. I said quietly. He did it to himself. I just turned the lights on. In the days that followed, the company issued a public apology. All ongoing deals under Bryce's name were frozen. Multiple former employees came forward with NDAs. They'd been forced to sign. Most under threat investors filed a class action suit. I was asked to return, to lead compliance, to help rebuild. I declined, because this story was never about climbing back in. It was about burning the trap behind me. Weeks. Later, I stood outside the same building where I was fired for being too curious. I didn't feel angry anymore, just clear. They hired me to manage a calendar, but I managed to destroy a man who lied his way into power and made the world believe in a name that didn't belong to him. After the arrest, everything moved fast. Too fast. The media circled like hawks, dissecting the lie. Investors threatened lawsuits. Employees demanded answers. The board issued carefully crafted statements about oversight failures, regret, and rebuilding trust. But behind closed doors, they wanted it buried. No lawsuits, no criminal trials, no discovery. Because if the world learned how long Bryce Naylor had operated in their blind spots, they'd all fall with him. They offered me a private settlement, quiet money, a clause that read like a muzzling order in gold ink. I declined. Instead, I wrote a full report, laid out the timeline. The fraud, the pattern of theft, erasure, re-entry. With Sam's help, we submitted it to the Office of Corporate Crime Enforcement and 3 major international watchdog organizations. Maya published a data breakdown on her cyber forensics blog. It went viral. The algorithm of a ghost. Because that's what Bryce had been. A ghost in the system. An identity parasite. A man who understood the one thing no audit ever caught: how easily people confuse confidence with truth. But just as the storm calmed, something strange happened. One of the drives recovered from Bryce's briefcase, Drive 4, refused to decrypt. Maya ran every tool she had. Sam tried low-level access protocols from his FBI days. Nothing worked. Until, one night, the drive opened by itself, a timed trigger. Inside, only one file, an audio log, dated 2 years earlier. Bryce's voice. Clear, calm, like he was dictating a journal entry. By the time you find this, I'll be gone. Maybe caught, maybe buried again. Doesn't matter. Because there are others now. I'm not the only one. You think I invented this? I was just the most disciplined. I stared at the screen. They needed someone to test the limits of belief. But the model works. People follow what they recognize, not what they verify. He laughed softly. If you're listening, Jenna, well done. You beat me. But don't think it ends with me. You kicked a hornet's nest, and they're still watching you. The file ended. Nothing else on the drive. I didn't sleep that night, and the next morning I found something taped to my mailbox. A folded slip of paper. No return name, no fingerprint, just one sentence. Curiosity got you this far. Will courage take you farther? Noah Dent's name was listed at the bottom. I hadn't seen that name before. But now I knew what it meant. Someone else had picked up where Bryce left off. A week later, I received an encrypted email, no signature, no body, just a download link, to a zip file named Project Mirror Face. Inside, surveillance footage, but not of me, of dozens of people, in offices, classrooms, homes, their faces marked, each tagged as unaware, control subject, phase 1. And the company name? Apex Vantage Group, not biotech, not medical education. I looked at Sam. They've shifted sectors. He nodded grimly. Corporate infiltration is scalable. The real product was always influence, not just data. Maya patched into the metadata. The files were created last week. They weren't archival. They were active, which meant someone, somewhere, had already filled Bryce's seat. Not in my company, in someone else's. I opened my laptop, started a new file, named it Naylor Protocol Continuation Risk. Under status, I wrote ongoing, because the lie didn't die in a boardroom, it went dormant, and people like me, we don't vanish, we resurface, smarter, louder, sharper than ever, because if the world is full of ghosts in suits, then I'll be the fire in the hallway.